Hi! In today's video I wanted to share with you the start of my very first commission ever. And I'm really excited about it. It's been about a year and a half since I started painting seriously and almost exactly 1 year since I decided to really give this professional art journey a shot. And this painting is a 65 by 92 cm old painting of two betta fish, and it represents a kind of dance between them during matting. So let's get into it. I started with the grid method, which I use pretty often because it helped me quickly transfer my drawing. I then sprayed it with fixative and I let it dry at least an hour. I also turned my reference into black and white for this part, not using a filter but by reducing the saturation directly. That way it don't create any weird contrast or artificial effects. For this piece I decided to try something new, an Imprimatura done in oil, and usually I block in my first layer with acrylics because it dries fast, but this time I wanted to try the most traditional method, so I diluted the oil paint with some Gamsol and a bit of liquid, and I applied a thin layer over the whole canvas. Then I use a cloth to gently remove the paint in the highlight area, which kind of brings the fish forward. And for me it's like doing a second drawing, and the main shapes really start to pop. Normally you're supposed to do the same thing but with adding the contrasts and the dark part of the painting, but I wanted to jump directly into the first layer of oil painting. After that I prepare my palette and I start painting. And for this layer I only use a liquid medium. This one is from Winsor and Houghton, and I don't use any thinner in this part of the process. I always have my tablet next to me, and on it I use Procreate so I can kind of pre-select the color there, and if I'm unsure about one, especially if I can't quite separate it from the surrounding tones, I do a quick swatch test in Procreate, and it's really super handy, and you will see me do this quite often. The more I do this and the more I realize my eyes is improving, because often the color I mix was already right, but it just helped me feel more confident about it. One thing that's changed in my process is how I approach the first layer. When I started painting, I would go straight into the details right away. That's something a lot of beginners do, and I totally get it because, yeah, as I told you, I used to do the same. I think I can show you my first betta fish painting here on the screen. I think it was my second or my third painting. I still love it, but it took me way longer than necessary, I think. So now, instead of finishing one area completely before moving on, I try to block in the whole painting first, placing the main colors and shape without going into detail. I blur my eye a bit, just to avoid focusing on all the tiny parts, and especially when an area has a lot going on. That helped me simplify what I'm seeing and lay down bigger colors area more confidently. Then I just add a few key details, only to mark where some things should go. And also I try to be really careful with my vibrant and transparent color. I try to make sure not to overmix or overwork them right now. I just try to lay down clean brush stroke, lightly soften the edge, but I avoid blending the whole thing. And I think that's pretty much where I'm at right now. For this commission, my client asked me to represent something like a dance between the male and the female sheep, with a lot of delicacy of their fins. The male is in a kind of protective posture, and you can really see the movement between them, and he really wanted this painting to also express that idea of a romantic dance, something soft, something really tender, and to show a connection between them. That's why I choose to use some of the same colors. The female have some really bright colors, and I used exactly the same on the head of the male. That way I wanted to show a visible link between them, and for the light there's a strong light coming from above, but I also wanted this glow coming from their face. The idea for this painting was really to try to take a poetic approach to this moment. I'm really grateful to have my first commission, and also just before that 1 year mark of me trying to become a professional artist, so it's kind of symbolic for me. And it's also funny because I have spent a lot of time working on my website, trying to get everything professional and even prioritizing it over painting times, but in the end My first commission actually came from a local art event I did. It's in a small town not far where I live, and honestly that day didn't start out great. A lot of things went wrong. If you want the full story, I will put the link somewhere here to the full story time I did. But what's important is that I met my first client here, and that's just how the project started. So I created a few mock-ups using Adobe stock photos. I then did some photo collaging in Photoshop. Once I chose the version I liked, I bought the image license and got to work. Honestly, I feel lucky. I think he's the ideal first client. He's not in a rush. He trusts me with the creative process, and that makes everything smoother. I think it could be a bit more stressful. And for the second client, it's the same story. I met her at another local event. She stayed maybe 5 minutes, and I didn't think anything would come of it. But she messaged me, I think the next day, and she told me she wanted to commission a piece. So one thing I really learned from this year is to not close my own doors. That's really something that hold myself back without realizing it. I almost didn't do those events, but if I hadn't gone, I wouldn't have met either of my clients. I think we as artists tend to be pretty solitary creatures. We love our studio time, we love creating alone, but the social side of things really matters. And it was another artist who gave me the contact for the person organizing this event. And as the second one, someone even shared a contact for a local gallery, which I plan to visit soon. So yeah, I think curiosity and openness are really important, and that's a big takeaway for me. To go back to this painting, as you can see, I spent a lot of time in this area. It was a bit tricky because there's a lot of transparency here, and even if I know I will work with glazing later, I wanted to have like a solid foundation for this and not having to modify it later and waste time. I don't know why, but I forgot to film the last part of this fish, so I'll show you here exactly how it ends for this first layer, for this first fish, and I think I will film every step of this commission. So if you like this type of video, tell me in the comments, and if you want me to talk about a specific subject in the voiceover, tell me also in the comments. And see you in the next video. Bye!